Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting, thrilling, fascinating, uh, fortuitous, let's even say fortuitous, episode of Moen After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I am, of course, your host, Moen, joined by my co host extraordinaire uh, of at CFB Express fame. If you're a Big 12 fan, you definitely want to go back and look at their Big 12 preview. I think it was one of the better Big 12 previews I've seen. They had some team by team breakdowns. It's Rock and Rant. How are you doing tonight, Rock?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's 3 weeks from games, or less than 3 weeks from games. So excitement level is definitely there, man. It's a long off season, and I'm freaking psyched that we're going to start talking about games for real.
We're getting close, and we're going to talk about games, but we're going to talk mostly tonight uh, that I really want to cover is the ESPN propaganda. And one of the reasons I really want to cover this is I see a lot of people, Big 12 people, ACC people even, supporting Greg Sankey's 5'11 and not understanding that Greg Sankey's 5'11 is not just a pure 5'11. It is a 5'11 with Greg Sankey's influence on how teams are selected. And who puts more influence on media writers, the committee, than ESPN, the worldwide leader in SEC bias?
We may or may not agree then tonight. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. And that's fine. That's perfect. But I've got some facts and figures, and we'll go from there. But let's say hello to some people first.
For sure.
Ryan Willie says, hi, CFM.
What's up, Ryan?
Good evening, Ryan. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. Then he leaves a $10 super chat. I've lost respect for John Kurtz for backing the ESPN propaganda versus the Big Ten. Will he say the Big was right when a SEC team with a better record isn't picked over an SEC team? I think that's supposed to be a Big Ten team. Yeah, I don't really watch a lot of John Kurtz anymore, so I haven't seen what he's been saying, Ryan. But yeah, unfortunately, I think again it's almost an echo chamber situation where ESPN says it and it becomes the truth. Thank
Yeah,
you for the
except for I
super
agree
chat,
with
sir.
John. I agree with most of what John says on it. So, like, I
Okay.
agree with what you're saying in principle, but I get what you're saying, but I don't agree ultimately. And I don't, and until it's done, I don't agree. If it goes the way that you're insinuating, then I would have a different opinion. But I also have a different opinion generally, and I'm not getting off the 5+11 hill that I'm ready to die on.
Ryan clarified that's picked over a Big 12 team.
Yeah, for sure, I
So
understood.
let me go ahead and give you a little on Wisconsin. Thank you again for that super chat, Ryan. If anybody else wants to help keep the lights on around here, by all means, you can click that little cash icon at the bottom of the chat window. Leave a super chat like our friend, the Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Leave a super sticker. Become a member. Gift some memberships. It's all good. We've got members only videos up that are new. You should check them out. Wild You carved out our SEC tier builder from Friday night. Holy hell, you guys got to read the comment section on that, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Virginia Tech has a very passionate fan base. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, they should have every right to complain. I wish more of them watched TV last year for their own sake. Like, I mean, in all seriousness, like, this is not the time for their ratings to go down. Their coach has to figure their crap
I,
out. That brand is too awesome, and the history is too great. And last year, for whatever reason, they were in the lower third of the ACC TV ratings, which doesn't help a program that I would never think ever, even on a bad year, even 3 bad years, would have fallen that far on TV rankings.
yeah, I said it before. I'll say it again. They should have went out and had a blank check for Shane Beamer last year after the job he did at South
Unbelievable. Like,
Carolina. Blank check, come take over the program, guaranteed pay. Uh, go to the boosters and say we need to get the right coach. I mean, Shane Beamer would be the right coach.
Yep.
He didn't do that.
I love Virginia Tech, and I think their fans deserve a hell of a lot better. But they also need to figure out why, outside of the core that are rabid on Twitter, why the TV rankings went that far below. And I understand when your team's not having a great year overall. They played amazing against Miami, but I get it. I didn't look in those posts to see what was happening in the comments, mainly because, like, I know Miami in the SEC would only do it to keep the rest of the human race population growing. So, like, I don't really have any expectations. So I didn't want to see people freaking out for no reason about something that wasn't really a slight.
I don't get involved, man. I don't get involved because that is a den of hornets. You don't stick your dick in a hornet nest. And I'm not going to do it.
You just decided to become the assassin of the CFB Mafia and shoot the bullets. But it also means he gets people gunning for him.
That's right. Let Ute do it. Ute is a beautiful target. The Big Lubbock is first, in case you were wondering. Always first. Timothy Green, I left 3 comments yesterday for tonight's show, but they are not showing today. I don't know why. Timothy, that's because YouTube resets them. If you leave them the day before a show, it resets at midnight. I don't know why it does that, but that's just something YouTube does. That's a YouTube thing.
Oh, I figured it was an SEC conspiracy.
Probably. Texas Tech, if you ask you. It's Texas Tech's fault. Timothy Green says, let's get ready for another great show tonight. And every day is another day closer to the college football season. Absolutely right, Timothy. Absolutely right. Stormy Cyclones here. He said left one as well. Not seeing it. Yeah, if you left it yesterday, YouTube erases them. I don't know why. I don't know why YouTube does this thing YouTube does. MBM says go Pokes. Good to see you, MBM. Resident Oklahoma State fan. Laura Weiss, speaking of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Laura Weiss, moderator extraordinaire. Thanks for stopping in, Laura. Good to see you.
Hey, Laura.
Sure, you're excited. You're excited for the season. You got to be with the pay that's going on out in Lubbock. Airspace says, Ryan, some people just have to put their hand on the burner to get it, and even then, some people never learn. Bob Swanger's here. He says, hey, everyone. Good to see you, Bob. Fergie's in the house. Go Buffs. Very excited for how the Buffs are preparing for this season. Georgia Tech at ticks in hand. Going to be a crazy Friday night in 26 days. There you go. 26 days.
Good to see you, Fergie. Thanks for joining us the other night on the Big 12 Mafia. I mean, the Big 12 preview show that Moen was kind enough to promo.
Cranky Tiger's in the house. He says, hey, everyone. Good to see you, Cranky. Steel Austin's here. He says, let's go Utes. Rod Nix is here. He says, let's go Knowles. Caleb Ramirez is here. His icon says it all. It's let's go Buckeyes. Why are people surprised by ESPN propaganda? But I'm not shocked by it, but I just think we'll get into the numbers. I promise. Shonsky's here. Daniel Gorby's here.
What's up, Daniel?
Stephen Vitt, the Ohio Bobcat, is here. Good to see you, Stephen. Skaven, yes, says hello, gentlemen. Good to see you, Skaven. And I think we got Joaquin Morales. Hey, Moen, Rock and Rant, CFM fam. Smash that like button. Go Devils. Absolutely. And if you don't like what we have to say, smash that don't like button. Moen, I see Lonnie Anderson passed. RIP. Is there really a WKRP in Cincinnati? There is not, but it is actually, I was told, based on real people. Dr. Johnny Fever was based on a real person that worked at a radio. Yeah. So
way long time ago, I had a promotion guy I worked with in one of my music industry days who was friends with the guy. And the stories made KRP seem calm.
Yeah, he was out of Detroit, right? I think he was out of Detroit.
It was one of those early Midwestern. It was definitely a Midwestern market fictional city for the show.
Yeah, but WKRP, the Thanksgiving giveaway
episode,
absolutely one of the best sitcom.
That or Cheers? Like, which is the best Thanksgiving episode? I don't know.
Listen, WKRP in Cincinnati. What's he say? For the love of God, I thought turkeys could fly. That's WKRP in Cincinnati. I love WKRP in Cincinnati. I love like old 70s, like late 70s sitcoms. Barney Miller. Barney Miller is one of my favorites. The Barney Miller hash episode where they eat the hash brownies.
Sneaky smart
all-time
show that was.
Yeah, all-time classic. Sorry to see Laurie Anderson passed. R.I.P. She was great. Coy says hi all. Good to see you, Coy. Nelson Jackson says the SEC Big Cold War is just beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah, you got to remember it didn't work out too well for the allies of one of those in the Cold War.
I just like seeing, there's no such thing as SEC on Big Ten violence. There's no victims.
Hey, Ricky Tungate is here in the house. RR, we suffered for 120 years. Let us enjoy our 1 year of greatness. Ricky, it's not 1 year, man. It's going to happen again this year for Indiana. I just got a feeling. I think I got them number 5. But it was tough. It was tough because it was them in Illinois, and I just put Illinois just over them.
I got nothing against Indiana. I just can literally live without ever hearing your coach speak again. Even though I think he's a good coach, I just don't like listening to him.
Absolutely. And here's a song that I'm sure Ricky hopes to hear a lot this year when Indiana scores a touchdown. God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly. And then he just shuts the door. Oh, my God. Yeah, for me, Thanksgiving episodes, it's WKRP, Rock. What would your vote be? You would go for the Cheers Thanksgiving episode?
I see the Cheers Thanksgiving episode because I see it more often because like when family and friends are here, that tends to be one that everybody has seen. But so I probably would say KRP just because I'm not as tired of seeing it.
Okay.
But that one line alone is the best line of either show.
Yes. No. When he's reporting it. God, the humanity. Joaquin Morales, we'll finish listening later. Taking care of Mama. Health took a bad turn a while back. Have a great night and show. Thanks for stopping by, Joaquin. Tell Mama to get well. And keep her in our thoughts and prayers. But thank you for stopping by. Got another super chat here. We're getting super chats tonight. I love it. The Big Lubbock, Fermi America and Texas Tech have announced a deal to build the largest AI data plant in the world. It will be an 11 gigawatt data center. City of Dallas. Been reading up recently about how much power drain AI actually has on the power grid now because it's used so much. Kind of weird.
Kind of weird.
But I mean, it's kind of cool.
Great if we had like renewable energy that just helped power those things.
Oh, I know. My dad's up by where my dad lives. They're trying to put solar panels in, and there's a bunch of people opposing them. And it's just like, nobody's using the land. Let's use it for something and maybe lower the electricity prices in Ohio, guys. And maybe put some people to work, because people have to maintain that, put it up. Everybody wants something, but they don't want it in their own backyard, All right, let's thank you for the super chat, Big Lubbock. I'll give you a little Texas Tech song. I also need to get that animation of the kid ringing the bell. It looks like he's just having the time of his life. Thank you for the super chat, Big Lubbock. It is much appreciated, sir. Congratulations,
sir.
Texas Tech. for that deal with Fermi America, and hopefully we can do something to get some energy increases in this country to where that can actually, I don't know, get prices down and it's not such a tax on the power grid. All right, let's talk about ESPN, the SEC, propaganda ministers. I'm going to show you two things here. All right. First thing I'm going to show you is a playoff predictor. This is not predicting who will go to the playoffs. This is not saying these are the 1 through 12 teams that are going to the playoffs. This is the percentage to make the playoff, according to ESPN. Okay, add it to stage. There we go. Texas is number 1, followed by Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Penn State, Oregon, Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. These have the highest percentage to make the playoffs. Obviously, we know this isn't going to be the case. There's no Big 12 team represented in here. There's no G6 team represented in here. The SEC occupies 50% of those spaces. The Big 10, 25%. ACC, 16%. Big 12, they don't even have a Big 12 team in the top 12. And then you've got independent, which is Notre Dame, which would be 8%, which, you know, just one school in there. Then I just wanted to put these out here just to show people. LSU, if there was a 16-team playoff, LSU, Michigan, Boise State, Tulane, they don't have a Big 12 team in the top 16. How is that possible? Arizona State came within a bad call of beating Texas last year to make the Final Four.
I'll tell you, so here's my take. One, let's be really clear. I'm not here to defend ESPN, and I have a reason why I'm going to go against Moen later, which isn't because I don't believe that the ESPN is a propaganda mouthpiece for the SEC, because I do believe it, but I'll explain. There's a thought of why I'm less concerned, and it has more to do with the Big Ten SEC-ness of it all and where they stand on a couple of things coming together. So that's where my argument would be. The reason statistically I believe this is happening is because if you look at this is the percentage. Each team has a percentage of how likely they are to get in, right? It's on a team by team level. And what I think is happening in the Big 12 specifically is if you look at the spread from the win-loss percentage, like the over-under, my take would be is that because the Big 12 has so many teams really in close, like there's not a big gap between the high and low, that each team in and of itself going into the season has a lower percentage because the stacked combination of those teams might actually be really good, but because they don't know which way it's going to go, not one team in the stats is distinguishing itself right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that is a future indicator of what will happen should a team or two emerge if you get 10-2 teams in the Big 12 as opposed to a bunch of 8-4 teams. That's what I believe is the reason behind it. I'm not defending. I'm not saying there's no such thing as a narrative that sets the ground for the committee, right? I'm not disputing facts in those ways, but I believe that's the reason why you're seeing it that way, is that it's dispersed within the Big 12. I think it sucks. I don't agree with it. I'm just trying to give like a rational statistical reason of why that could be coming the case where, you know, and when the metrics you have right now are based off of the strength of schedule or going into the season strength of record, and some of those out of conference games aren't of the same tiers on paper. That's probably hurting them. And I get why that would make Big 12 fans frustrated, teams frustrated, and why it completely fits going into the SEC propaganda network narrative with ESPN.
I'm not going to disagree with you on the Big 12 portion of your argument. The statistics, you're right. It's a there's a lot of parity in the Big 12. But explain to me how 50% of the SEC, 50% of the playoffs is six SEC teams. If the SEC is the toughest conference in football, how is it that 6 teams make it in the playoff in their playoff predictor?
Because disproportionately, I think that they know that, the bottom half is so far gone, right? And they are playing strength of schedule against the teams above them, right? Or alongside them. So that helps in that preseason indication of strength of schedule, right? Now, if unexpected team or teams in the SEC perform both poorly outside of the conference in the conference games, those tough games against Mercer that Auburn now has instead of Alabama this year in Week 11, or overall they start to do more of what the Big 12 does to each other. If the SEC turns into a conference where there's a lot of 8-4 and 9-3 teams, then it will change things. But on paper, I think they're basically saying these 5 or 6 teams, with their disproportionate on paper heading into the season strength of schedule, both because of the conference and maybe 1 or 2 games out of conference, that's what they're predicting. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it's BS. I would love if there were no such thing as polls and preseason things, but you're not going to ban them. Big 12 saying we're not doing a coaches and a preseason poll isn't going to change anything, because it's a free country and people are going to publish damn polls, and those things are going to be read no matter what happens, right?
Absolutely. But the poll that's going to get the most airplay is going to be the ESPN poll. It absolutely is. Let's be honest. Sports writers are not the most productive people. They will just read a byline and make their decision from it. And if one of these teams has a close game, it's going to be because they were worn down from the SEC schedule. If Ohio State or Penn State has a close game against a bad team, it's going to be because they're not good enough.
Yeah, I know for a fact that narrative will exist out there. Like, first of all, this isn't a poll, right? This is somebody's statistical.
This is a playoff predictor. This is ESPN went through and said this is the percentages who has the best percentage to make the playoffs.
Correct. So this isn't necessarily a poll. Here's the thing I think has fundamentally changed it. I don't believe people are believing it. And I would have a political analogy, but I don't want to go there. I believe fundamentally that the SEC jumped the shark last year after the season. And while I don't at all doubt whatsoever that there will be a narrative tried to be forced upon, and that will be in the ether out there when it comes to when the College Football Playoff Committee starts going, and that to some degree will absolutely influence it, I think that the power of the SEC, because of how much they cried about last year in Alabama, has at least been somewhat diminished. I think there's more pushback. There's a lot of national writers who have pushed back upon the whole sob story that we heard at the end of last year when it came down to teams at 12, 13, 14, 11, 10, 9. The people have paid more attention now to, like, wow, that's kind of weird what happened at BYU. So I think instead of it being a whole tidal wave of that BS completely going in one direction in favor of the SEC, that there will be more pushback generally because they went too far in the narrative, both at the end of last year and with their propaganda document during the SEC commission, AD and president's meeting, a little bit less during the SEC meetings, which media days, which are a little quieter relatively. So I think there's at least some degree of pushback. Still going to exist, but I think the current's a little bit lower, a little bit weaker than it was. A little bit.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think what they're going to do is they're going to use the SMU Penn State game as basically it's going to be a rallying cry this year.
Cool.
And it's going to be a rallying cry that ESPN's going to spout out there at the end of the season when the playoff predictions have to come out. SMU got blown out. We can't let another ACC team in there over a 9-3 SEC
and then we
team.
immediately need to go, yeah, except for they didn't get blown out as bad as Tennessee did.
That's true.
Right? And
absolutely true.
And that will happen because there are enough people who are now sick of the SEC, including 1 or 2 writers who have come on board both at On3 as well as on ESPN. And maybe they're going to get told to not say certain things, but I haven't seen their presence on social media change about dunking on the SEC since they joined. Look, it's still there. I'm not in denial about it. But yeah, like when they do that, we can ignore the fact that they had a very young quarterback who made a few key plays in the first half for SMU that turned that game very quickly into what it became. I would be really curious to see what would happen in year 2 if the same 2 teams met up. But Tennessee would be a really great example. So was it only because it was cold? That was why. Like, how did Tennessee get blown out just as bad? Right.
Yeah, you would expect, but the problem is SMU is going to be the one that's shouted from the mountaintop. Tennessee, you're right. That's a good counterpoint. Is anybody at ESPN going to bring that up? Do you think? Do you think they would really bring it up?
They have a lot of the mind share, but they don't have all of the mind share. And the SEC is basically assured that almost all college football fans across every other conference, when it comes to this, are going to be in mentions and on social, on the reporters, on everybody, pushing back on their narrative. Like, the one thing that's great right now, if you're not the SEC or the Big Ten, you've got 3 conferences aligned against the Big Ten on one thing. You've got 3 conferences plus the G6 aligned against the SEC on another thing. And that audience is a lot of people and a lot of heads and a lot of individual beat writers and collectives pushing back on one narrative or the other, to a way that I don't think we headed into last season with.
Fair enough. I just think sports writers are going to watch college football final and form their own. You're right. It's hive mind almost. They're going to get in the echo chamber, and I think ESPN is going to push a pro SEC narrative that I think can frankly damage, especially moving into the college football playoff with the new playoff factors that Greg Sankey wants put in place. Ryan Willie with another $5 super chat. The ACC teams are rumored to go to the SEC in big. Yeah, Clemson, Miami. You've even got Notre Dame on there. Very easily, this could be, 50-50 between the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't think the ESPN playoff predictor would allow that to happen. But to me, 6 teams, 50%. Big Ten only gets 3 teams in, 25%. I don't understand how a conference that's supposed to be so tough, and the toughest conference in America, yet 6 teams are in the top 12 of the playoff predictor. I get completely what Rock's saying. It could be, hey, cannibalize the conference, you get beat up. But yeah, I don't agree with this. But thank you for the comment, Ryan. I'll play a little badger noise for you.
Yeah, I don't believe. Yeah, I don't agree that this is what's going to happen, and I don't like if it were to happen, just to be really clear.
Yeah, it can't happen. There's no G6, there's no Big 12.
Yeah.
This isn't saying this is the 12 teams we're getting in the playoff. It's saying these 12 teams have the highest percentage chance, according to ESPN, to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, but what I mean is, yes, that, but like if there's, I don't believe there's a world where this becomes a college football top 12, where therefore one of them has to, 2 of them get booted out for a G5 and a Big 12 member.
Right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, looking at ESPN, this is what they're doing is their playoff predictor. They're putting this out there very early before the season. The SEC is the best conference, top 12, 50% of them are SEC teams.
Yeah. Well, both conferences, the Big 12, well, even the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, Big 10, to some degree, the G5, G6, whatever the hell it is. Someone tell me what we're just sticking with so I know which one we're calling it.
I call it G6.
They all have between week 0, 1, and 2 for the most part, a few into week 3. Miami for sure has into week 3 to do it. Have a chance to shit all over that narrative by winning out of conference games against the SEC, right? A lot of Clemson, LSU.
I don't disagree with you, but it's just Laura Weiss brings it up. It's setting the table. This repeated narrative of the SEC is such a dominant conference in college football. By the way, the SEC hasn't won a national championship in 2 years. Georgia lost to Notre Dame last year. Tennessee lost to Ohio State. You're right. Tennessee got blown out by Ohio State. In fact, that blowout should have been much, much more. But there were a couple bad calls in that game that benefited Tennessee. But yeah, I'm just saying this is setting it up. We're setting the table. Okay, we got one more super chat that came in from Doc Gibbs, and Doc Gibbs just gave us a thumbs up. So thank you, Doc Gibbs. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Doc.
Much appreciated. Appreciate that super chat. I don't know what team you represent, Doc. I don't. I'm sorry, so I'll have to give you something else. You know what? We'll do a little. Here we go. Do a little of this. Old Doc Gibbs with the glass shatter. Now I'm going to bring up another thing here. This is ESPN's Football Power Index. This is used a lot throughout the season, and it changes throughout the season. It changes throughout the season, but it's very interesting to look at preseason. Again, SEC, 13 teams in the top 25, 52% of the poll. Big Ten's at 6 teams with 24% of the poll. ACC's with 3 teams, 12%. Big 12, 2 teams, 8%. Independent, Notre Dame, 4%, 1 team. How do you get Football Power Index before a season starts? You look at roster, but don't you have to look at performance on the field at the end of the last season?
I don't know if they use that as a stat. I do know they use returning production. I do know they use things like the roster that's coming back. I know all the stats that define what it is are listed on the page. I just can't remember what they are.
Sure, but I mean, a school like Texas, Arch Manning is he's going to be a starter. Everybody's already crowned Arch Manning basically as the Heisman winner. Paul Finebaum has basically already smelted the gold to build the statue for him. It seems to me, I hate the idea. The Football Power Index, I know this gets used by the playoff committee. They can say they don't use it. I know they do. They do. And it's just another example of they're already setting a narrative that the SEC is the most dominant conference, according to the Football Power Index. 13 out of the 16 SEC teams are in the top 25. To me, that doesn't seem statistically possible.
I'm just looking at the raw numbers as we're talking. The thing with this is if you look outside of the ESPN world for similar type of things, they're different. They're not dramatically different though, right? They're different because somebody factors in this degree of X versus Y. But if you look at any of these power index kind of things, they're probably plus or minus 10% overall, unless somebody has a massively new different model that accounts for something. But yes, there's no doubt in my mind that they use this in some way because it's theoretically objective. It's not somebody voting.
Right.
It's biased by what they decide to include in the beginning.
Right. What stats they choose to include and how they choose to include them. And I'm not saying Texas isn't number one. Texas very well may be number one. We're going to find out real early in the season. They got to play Ohio State. Georgia's probably great. Alabama's probably great. 13 teams out of 16 teams in the SEC make it into the top 25. That's statistically how the SEC, the playoff should just be the Final Four should all be SEC teams in the playoff based on Football Power Index. To me, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. Yes, they use an equation. I understand they use an equation. I'm saying the equation they use is, before it's even put up, it is biased to SEC teams.
Well, here's why it would be biased, but then I guess the question is, what would you do differently? And I don't want to hear don't do any indexes or rankings, because that's just not going to happen, right? But if this is the definition, so I pulled up the page just so we can all have it to reflect on a preseason version, right? It's a predictive rating system estimating each team's strength in points per game relative to the national average on offense, defense, and special teams, making adjustments for starters lost, recruiting talent, and other personnel changes plugged into a schedule. Each thing is then simulated 20,000 times to predict each team's odds of winning its conference, making the playoff, and advancing through the national title. So every team's gone through their thing 20,000 times. In the offseason, it's taking about who left, who graduated, who you replaced it with, and what's your incoming recruiting rankings. So if we go to their incoming recruiting rankings, spoiler alert, guess what teams are in the top 10 and the top 25 of the 2025 recruiting
I 100%
class, right?
agree with you too,
Or the
Rock.
portal rankings, what teams are going to be there for the most part.
And who are they using for the recruiting rankings?
Well, ESPN
I've
is
seen
the
kids
worst
that are
one.
Whichever one is probably the best for SEC.
They're all good
You
for
think?
the SEC, dude.
Well,
I literally
yeah.
know this one with my eyes closed.
I'm not saying they're not. Ohio State too, Penn State, Oregon, Miami, Clemson. You're seeing a lot of non-SEC schools that recruit really well in here too. Michigan, but still 52%, 13
The highest
teams.
team in the highest Big 12 team last year in the 24/7 team rankings was TCU at 24, and they were 26 on the On3. That's like the Big 12. I just did this on Thursday. That's why I'm saying it like this.
I understand that. I'm not saying that the Big 12 numbers are wrong, right? I'm saying there is a clear, evident SEC bias in the way these are calculated.
I think there's a bunch of SEC bias in everything. My only point being that if one of the things that they're talking about in the offseason coming into the season for this specific index is a factor of new players in, well, that's like looking at the transfer portal rankings, right? And the recruits, and all I'm saying is it makes that portion of the rest of it. I'm not saying that the model's right, that the 20,000 things are right. I really don't even want to be here defending the SEC and ESPN because that's not really my point. I'm just trying to explain from my point of view where some of this comes. I think this is all BS. I think K-State, BYU, K-State, Utah, Arizona State, all Iowa State could all be making a run into the playoffs. I actually don't think it's out of the question that two Big 12 teams will make the 12-team field this year if two separate themselves. So, but yes, I'm not trying to take out the bias. I'm just trying to look at what they use for this ranking, and it doesn't make sense. How they're quantifying the offense and defense and the special teams points versus the national average, we have no insight to that whatsoever, right? I can only comment on that portal rankings and the team recruiting rankings portion of the 6 or 7 things that they list in this rankings for how they come up with whatever BS this is.
Yeah, it's BS. In my opinion, it's BS. And this will get to the part where Rock and I will disagree even more. Greg Sankey's pushing for a 5-11 with a new format for the committee to decide teams. A new algorithm for them to decide teams, things he wants them to focus on more. We don't know what that is, but I got a good idea. He's going to want them to refer more to press ratings, independent sports writers as well. And I think independent sports writers aren't truly independent. I think a lot of them lean on ESPN for their takes.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to get an SEC bias. Obviously Greg Sankey's going to make sure there's an SEC bias. That's Greg Sankey's job. I'm not faulting Greg Sankey for that. I'm saying that people who are going 5-11, cheering for 5-11 with Greg Sankey backing it, need to realize it's a different 5-11 when Greg Sankey backs it. It's a 5-11 to get more SEC teams in.
For sure, that's what he wants. And here's where my disagreement with you will be. Greg Sankey's not getting a 5-11 with a clearly ridiculously biased new analytics measurement because he won't have the votes against the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12, right? He's not going to get that. To me, that's a straw man. He's going to try to push that. He might be able to nudge things a little bit. I'm not going to act like he won't. But the Big Ten is not going to agree with him to give him all of the metrics the way he wants when they already want an AQ model without there being some safety in it for them that reflects what you just talked about, your concerns for everything we just saw. and clearly something like independent polls made up by people pulled crap out of their ass and didn't even watch any of the games after 8 o'clock on the East Coast, that's not going to fly. So if I'm a Big 12 and ACC fan, you're in the position of you can unite with, I think, you can unite with Sankey on the 5+11. That doesn't mean you're uniting with him on the metrics BS and propaganda pieces that he put out at the Big Ten presidents and or the Big Ten AD and coaches meetings he did before the SEC media, things that got circulated widely, which was just another crock of crap. It was more crying about the same things because the Big Ten is not going to approve that. Like Petitti is not going to do that. So they're going to have to give on something that maybe gives in a little bit more to the SEC. If they even go to the 5+11, that's something that but the Big Ten won't be willing to do that without a couple of things. You've already talked, we've talked about it incessantly, the number of conference games. Plus, they're not going to give them all of their metrics if it's clearly completely weighting things even further to the SEC. I think that's like a straw man that just don't exist because nobody's that stupid.
Well, I think
maybe Jim Phillips.
Well, Jim Phillips. Pac-12 fans will tell you this. Old school Pac-12 fans will tell you there was such bias against the Pac-12 because nobody stayed up late to watch the Pac-12 games.
Absolutely didn't.
East Coast sports writers would just, push through the East Coast narratives that they were, Pac-12 was an afterthought. They didn't play defense. USC was the only decent Pac-12 team. And, USC was for years the only West Coast team they knew. USC, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart. So I don't know. I just think ESPN has a bias to it. I just want to make it clear you can support 5-11. But if you believe Craig Sankey supporting a 5-11 the way the Big 12 and the ACC are, you're wrong. He's supporting a 5-11 that is going to be for the SEC, and he is going to use ESPN in some way as one of the metrics, or somehow use them in some kind of the metrics from a media standpoint to get as many SEC teams in.
Of course he's going to try to do that. But as much as I thought Tony Petitti was literally terrible at the Big Ten media days because they're not giving any strength to their narrative and argument to influence people to see a point of view. They just did a terrible job doing that. I also don't think he and the Big Ten ADs and presidents are idiots to just give in to them. Like, let's say the SEC decides to go to 9 games and add that additional loss to everybody in the SEC's record that would automatically happen by the nature of another game. I don't think they're like, cool, we did 9 games, but now we're still going to let you rig the system by changing the metrics in a way that is clearly favoring you in a disproportionate way every single season, right? Like, I don't see how that world exists that the Big Ten would give in that way. And without the Big Ten, you're not making that systemic change, which is why I think it's entirely possible we're going to sit here with the current 12-team model for not just 1 year, but potentially another year until people just see too much money on there and the balance of fairness plus recognizing realities are all dealt with in some way. So that's why I don't worry about like the Greg Sankey trying to influence it too much, because I don't see how the Big Ten is going to give in that way, because they're not stupid either.
I agree with you. I just, the SEC, pro SEC stuff from ESPN, especially when ESPN, you would think they might do a little bit to pump up the ACC, maybe just a hair. I get Florida State had an awful season last year, but to just completely discount Florida State in both of these, I think is ridiculous. Florida State's loaded with talent. They should be in your football power index.
Not in mine.
I know as a Miami fan, you're not going to agree with that, but
I don't. I think they're going to go 6-6 or 7-5 this year. I think they'll be better, and I know the people in the chat are not going to be happy. So I don't necessarily use that. I guess as my point is to be an indication of. I think they got much better coordinators. I just don't believe in Castellanos when it comes down to it.
Okay,
but I don't think that's necessarily an indication of the issue there. The issue with the ACC is Jim Phillips is a terrible commissioner who had his own media days when asked about being treated as a second-class citizen, basically said, well, when we go to them and complain, they do a little bit about it. He didn't say anything about being proactive about it at all, right? That's literally like they're really responsive when we complain. That was his answer to it. Like, go back and look at it. Like, that's why they're terrible. What he didn't do for Florida State 2 years ago is going to go down as one of the most despicable lack of doing your job on the college sports team that we've ever seen. And again, like, I'm a Miami fan, but what he didn't do for Florida State was freaking vile. He should have been fired. Honestly, he should have been fired out of that because he wasn't defending his conference. He wasn't defending an undefeated team on his roster, and that's why the ACC is treated like a second-class citizen by ESPN. And because their deal is split, that's why the Big 12 is treated like a stepkid by ESPN.
Absolutely. You know what? We've hit 100 viewers on YouTube. Let's give away some memberships, Rock.
Sounds good.
Giving away some memberships. Let's see who got those memberships. Devil Frog, member. Brad, Tidegrad 88, received a membership. Laura Wellborn received a gift membership. Chris G received a gift membership. And Kenneth Maynor received a gift membership from the College Football Mafia family. We get 10 of those to give away a month. We've given away 5 on Friday and 5 today. So congratulations to the 5 that got it tonight. Congratulations to the 5 who got it on Friday. You now have 30 days of free membership to the College Football Mafia here on YouTube. We always do for members. You get preferential when we select comments, and you get access to our members-only video and our members-only live streams.
We should actually get Brett Yormark AI to take the job of Jim Phillips. Like, if we can't hire a good commissioner for the ACC, maybe we could just have an AI version of Yormark.
I love the fact that you said he should have been fired, and then I realized right after you said that the ACC gave him an extension.
They gave him an extension. What a pathetic bunch of losers at the top of the administration. And I include Miami if they voted to give him an extension. Like, talk about the failing up generation of commissioners.
MBM says, bet we have a new media partner in the future away from ESPN. I bet so too, MBM. I look for Warner Brothers Discovery to jump, or Warner Brothers, whatever we're splitting them into now to make my stock go down further. Whatever that division of it ends up becoming, I believe they get into the college football game.
I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix does too.
Jose says, hashtag boycott ESPN. Listen, you can't. You can't. I mean, if you're a college football fan, you got to watch it.
Yeah, even if you're not paying for them, you're still going to watch an illegal pirated stream with the same yahoos on the announcer's crew.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, if you're a college football fan, there's a chance one of your teams might be on there, and for the Big Ten, it's not likely, but it's still possible. But for me, I like to gamble, and I like to watch a lot of games and bet on a lot of games, and I love those 5-way parlays. So I got to watch ESPN.
Yes, you do.
I can't just get rid of. I mean, if I could get rid of, well, I got to have Comedy Central for South Park. But if I could get rid of cable altogether and just get an ESPN package, I probably would.
Guess what? You can sign up for the new service this fall.
Yeah. Well, when they came up with Venue, I thought, oh, that's perfect. Now I can just get rid of everything altogether. And then they're like, no, you've got to, we're going to get rid of that. The FCC gets rid of that. But they'll let Disney buy 95 freaking cable channels.
Unrelated, but little pro tip, it might still work for everyone. If you've been a Sunday Ticket subscriber and they keep jacking the price up, amazing little thing is that if you wind up using a different email account with a different credit card, you can get the introductory rate.
There you go.
And if you get YouTube TV, just sign up for it through that account on YouTube instead. And the only thing you'll miss is the local games being integrated into your box, but you could still separate that onto your TV. It'll save you over $200. I did it last week.
Okay, there you go. There's an unethical life tip.
I didn't completely steal because I wanted the 4-box, and I don't want to have to deal with whatever pop-up streams are going to come, ads are going to come up. But I wasn't paying the new rate that went up. So,
I'm shocked that as a Jets fan you would even want to pay to see.
I don't. I want to see Cam Ward and the Titans.
Okay.
I already know what the Jets are going to look like, and I also too like to bet. and play fantasy football, so it doesn't really matter about the Jets.
Listen, I'm not giving up on Justin Fields just yet. Anybody who gets drafted to Chicago looks terrible. All of this over the 16 team picked. Yes, all of this over the 16 team picked. I'm going to do another video at some point. Shane Moser sent me a spreadsheet that shows the last 20 some years of playoffs. You would be shocked. It's very, very similar to the AQ method. Jose says Tennessee, Ole Miss, and A&M are all garbage. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think A&M is going to do better than people expect. I think Elko really. I think Elko's the right coach for that job.
They're still probably both top 25 teams. They're just probably not playoff level teams or even like 16 team playoff teams. I think I have Ole Miss at like 6th for me on my SEC rankings, and A&M right around there, either one above or one below.
Big 12 has to convince Netflix or Prime to go all in along with Turner. Get away from ESPN. Yeah, I wouldn't go to a streaming only service. I wouldn't go that far yet. If you can get to Turner, that's a good idea. Because one, you're going to get coverage on basic cable, TNT Sports. They're also going to put it into the HBO Max app, which,
you kind of still need a broadcast partner to really max out. Like, there's a difference without having a broadcast partner for at least one game.
There is, but CBS could take it. If you got a noon game, CBS could probably take a noon game from you. Or CW. You could take that CW deal. CW, again, it's in 75% of households. If the next star, CW, I should say.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if the ACC's that whole Raycom bastardization thing of that deal that went to CW eventually. I think this is either this year or next year is the last year it's contractually obligated. I don't know what the ESPN chooses to do with those rights after.
Jansen Roberts says Netflix and SEC are in talks about season 2 of the docuseries for the schools that opted out the first go round. Yeah, that's laying the groundwork right there to move more football games to streaming. But I don't think you can abandon. Yeah, I don't think you can abandon broadcast, like Rock said right away. Stephen Vitt says ESPN already showed us their hand at the poker table. Their agenda this year could be to keep the Big 12 out. I'm not so sure it's about keeping any one conference out as much as it is maximizing the SEC in. And we've seen that an undefeated ACC champion got left out of a 4-team playoff in favor of an SEC team. So.
Not only did they get left out in favor of an SEC team, but they also flipped the rule the next year, where an injury didn't matter for. Well, it could have come that way. An injury mattered everything for FSU, but imagine had Georgia lost in the title game.
MBM says Whittingham could cut it in Mickey Mouse leagues, but he's just average in the Big 12. I think his problem was his loyalty to Cam Rising. I think it was a bad move, obviously. He puts together some great Utah teams in the pack. I mean, they came close to beating Ohio State and Penn State in the Rose Bowl. Wild Ute will tell you. They almost beat Ohio State, and they almost beat Penn State. Almost.
I think they'll have a bounce-back season. I don't think they're making it to the title game personally, but I know others disagree.
Shonsky says the Big 12 has a few schools investing a lot of money in football now. Texas Tech, for sure. Hold your breath. The Big 12 is going to be fine.
What schools are that, Shonsky? I know BYU is. Clearly, Texas Tech is. Like, Texas Tech is the only one that, from afar, is clearly going into that top 10-ish round of investment that you can see both in facilities and in players, and you need to be in that space for that. Though they didn't have a great, they didn't have like a top 20 recruiting class, but the portal, they killed it. But who else is doing it at that level?
I don't. Colorado probably is. I'd imagine Colorado's probably putting money out there now that Prime has brought some success.
I don't mean just like, hey, you're going to do the 20.5 million revenue sharing across your program. You also have.
You're talking about NIL too.
Yeah, I'm talking about NIL. I'm talking about investment in facilities. Kansas just redid their stadium. Looks fantastic. But you also had the same week Iowa State re-upping a really well-respected head coach at a very low premium that a team in the top 4 of a conference like he is regularly, top 5, whatever you want to call it, as one of the lowest paid coaches, and he took theoretically less money to be able to keep the pool up for his coaches and other things they needed within the program, which is it's hard to keep that going in the long run with everything that he's doing. But he's a good enough coach potentially that maybe he can manage that.
Here's a great comment from Daniel Gorby. ESPN started their propaganda campaign in Florida State in 2023, 2 weeks before Jordan Travis got injured. Sankey went on College Game Day and preached Alabama for 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, I just put the auto adjust here, so let me know if the volume level got better for those of you in the chat. Yeah, Sankey was on constantly, and Jim Phillips, the only place I saw him on was the side of a milk carton asking if, have you seen?
Yeah, but the question is, would ESPN give Jim Phillips 15 minutes on College Game Day to make the argument for Florida State? Would they even give it?
He was a lot better this past year on it. He was a lot better this past year when it came to the discussions of Miami, SMU, Clemson in the coming weeks. I mean, it was markedly better. Then again, the baseline was 0. So
the strength of the SEC is that strong. That's why the Big needs help. Yes, Big won the last 2 natty, but overall the SEC is stronger. Again, it's not just about winning the national championship, though. Listen, in the bowls last year, the Big Ten went 5-1 against the SEC.
I mean, listen, man, when it comes to the regular bowl games right now, and the ACC was terrible. I think it was like 2-11. I just don't even know how to judge the regular bowl season anymore with people opting out. The games in the playoff for sure, and you'd rather win than lose. It's just harder for me to take those as seriously, because you have to almost know every single game which percentage of their roster of Game 12 was actually playing in it. I'm not making an excuse for anybody there. It just means I think you have to have a little bit more theoretical context around those games to really judge it.
I agree. And I see a lot of people in chat are saying, yeah, but the 15 previous years, I think with the addition of NIL, I think NIL was the great leveler in college football.
Yeah.
It's just in my opinion.
I agree. I think you can't completely do the 15 years ago thing anymore, that you can compare a passing era offense to a T formation era running game.
Yeah, how many
1940s.
Yeah, how many games in a row did Miami win in the 1980s? It was 52 or something.
The home winning streak was 58.
Okay.
And then I don't remember the season-to-season one, but it was I think it hit into the 30s.
Yeah, it was something when Ohio State beat them in the national championship, because they were undefeated the year previously and won the national championship. And then the year previous to that was Butch Davis, and they were on an 8-win streak to end the season.
It was 30-something total.
But I mean, that's what we're saying. That's years ago. You can't go back to that as a Miami fan and say, well, we were, undefeated. I don't think you can go that far back. It's a different era.
Yeah, the things are different. There's less car dealerships. More people have access to them now, depending on how you want to look at it.
Tempest says ESPN hates everyone but the SEC. I don't think they hate them. I just don't think they have the shine the SEC does.
They married the SEC. Everybody else is their road partners.
Yeah, last year when Miami was doing well, I don't think Miami got the shine that teams like Tennessee did. I don't. Cam Ward got his highlight reels. but you never heard Miami spoke of as a potential playoff buster. I'd love to see Texas Tech versus SMU Natty, so long as ESPN has to watch no SEC team make it ever again.
That would be an interesting game for sure.
Nebraska in the top 25. Fook me. Yeah. I'll tell you what, one thing for Rule, though, is he doesn't blame the team when they lose. Unlike certain people named Scott Frost.
Scott Frost is I don't think round 2 is going to go so well in UCF.
He's Frost. A dick. 13 teams in top 25, end of year 5 teams ranked in top 25. Yeah. It is very clear ESPN controls every aspect of the college football playoff. It's no different than 14 of 16 teams in the basketball tournament. Basketball tournament, I think, is a little different, but again, I think anything that involves sports writers or leans on sports writers are lazy and they just watch highlights.
I mean, they definitely have influence, but you could also argue that the fact that they had 3 teams that were basically the 3 of the first 4 teams out last year in the playoff shows that they don't have as full of control as people like to give them, or else that wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't have heard about how Alabama was so magnificent and we should ignore the losses to Vanderbilt and others.
Morris Simmons says, can you imagine Clemson, Florida State, Florida, Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia? This conference will dominate in viewership, recruiting, and other measurements. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, it's the same conference they have today minus plus 2 new teams.
Yeah,
They already are dominating. They're already dominating recruiting. You're just adding 2 other teams that are at the top of the ACC in 2 of those areas.
Laura Weiss brings up Texas Tech had the first or second rated portal class. Yeah, I don't know how portal class figures into their FPI. That's a great point.
It does. It's incoming players. It's roster change, who's left. Portal is factored into that, as well as the incoming recruiting.
Right. But, Fergie brought up something earlier, too, and I didn't star the comment, Fergie. Here it is. Recruiting rankings are garbage right now. How the hell does an Ohio State recruit that ends up at Colorado get downgraded? Sorry, but Coach Prime has more talent, observation skill than Ryan Day. Jesus Christ, Fergie. That's a good one. I got to put the laugh on for that. Oh, wait.
I mean, Colorado recruiting isn't exactly at the top of it. And what you're I guess the good news for you, Fergie, is that you're experiencing something that happens all the time, and you can go to a number of schools. I'm sure that Morris and a couple of FSU guys would also note this too.
Yeah,
but they do technically do. Sometimes they do get downgraded, and the coincidences are pretty close. And sometimes you'll hear some of those analysts talk about the where that player could be based on what they think a school can develop somebody, which shouldn't really be part of the factors of who you are heading into the program that you're going into. Convenient resetting.
Right, Fergie. And listen, I can agree with you on recruits star ratings. Recruiting's just, it changes I've seen 3-star kids that become 4-star kids when they get selected. They go to Ohio State. But come on. Ryan Day has put more players in the first round of the NFL draft than I think any active coach. Maybe Kirby Smart might have a say on that. But, I mean, come on. All the receivers he's put out, the quarterbacks, defensive players, they're going to be fine.
This will be the year that we find out about Deion and his talent evaluation skills for real.
Right. And, listen, Ryan Day has a natty. Prime hasn't coached a national championship team yet. What is the big? Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Penn State. Illinois is on the up. Indiana's on the up. Iowa is consistent. Minnesota is usually pretty consistent. Wisconsin, before Fickle got there, Wisconsin used to be consistent. and UCLA, look, you're in the middle of LA. That's a huge recruiting place. I'm not counting UCLA down forever either. Same with Washington. It was just 2 years ago. Washington was in a natty.
I agree. Jed Fish is a good coach.
Michigan State, Nebraska. Yeah, Michigan State, if they get up again. Nebraska, we'll have to see. Devil Frog says ESPN wants to turn college football into the WWE. I don't disagree with you. I think they want a good portion of it to be, I won't say fixed, but I will say nudged. I guess you don't understand contracts. I missed that was relating to. Jim Phillips is a clown. That's one I wanted to click. I think everybody can agree on that. If I did a poll right now, I think it would be 100% Jim Phillips is a clown. I would like to say this is one of the best shows I have been on. It is so interesting, and everyone is in the conversation, has great points. Everyone in the chat is wonderful. Absolutely, Timothy Green. That's one thing we do love to hit here on Mowing After Dark is get to as many comments as we possibly can. As always, we defer to member comments when possible. Like Jared Jones, a member. Big wants AQs because we watched ESPN clamoring for Bama, South Carolina, Ole Miss last year with 9-3 records. They said nothing about 9-3 Illinois. Absolutely right. Illinois beat South Carolina. It's true. Shane Beamer got very salty in one part of that game. It was great. God bless Bert.
That was also past the playoff selection committee time. So
yes, and Michigan beat Bama
again.
But here's the thing: Michigan did beat Alabama, and Michigan had more players sitting out for NFL draft than Alabama did. Alabama still had their starters in.
That's what I mean. You have to look at each game with the context. The thing is, I think when anybody says if you have a 6-3 record through any conference like Petiti did, that is a bad argument, because if you were a Big Ten team last year and you had a 6-3 record and you lost close to Ohio State, Penn State, and Illinois, I would say, yeah, you had a really great conference record. That was a tough schedule you had. If you lost to Purdue and Northwestern and somebody else at home, that is not a good 6-3 record in the conference. So when Petiti uses that as an example, he got the smirks he got because of that. Just like Alabama saying, well, we had a great, we have a tough conference, and you lost to Vanderbilt and had the Oklahoma game happen. That was not a good record in the conference, even though you had an amazing game against Georgia.
Devil Frog says, thanks, Moen. You're welcome, Devil Frog. Enjoy that membership. Morris Simmons says, Jim Phillips is a terrible commissioner, but the failure of the ACC is not his alone. Previous commissioners share the blame as well. That Raycom deal, we could spend an entire show on that Raycom deal.
Absolutely. I'm surprised Swafford didn't run for government. He got the corruption down.
Chris G, you're welcome for that membership. Please enjoy it. You'll be a member for the next 30 days, courtesy of the College Football Mafia. Shonsky says, ESPN is going directly to consumer. They have a lot of content that people are going to have to pay for. No more ESPN cable. They're going to have to maintain both. They're going to have to do both. ESPN can't go streaming. They can't go purely streaming. Disney just owns too much bandwidth on cable. You agree or disagree with that, Rock?
You keep selling typewriters until nobody wants typewriters, and then you stop investing at a certain point, and they have not reached the ESPN on cable's typewriter zone.
Yeah, there's still a generation of people who can't get behind streaming only, that need cable.
People don't realize there's still a large portion of the country that does not have broadband in rural areas that can sustain a real good streaming model. Not every area, but there's definitely still gaps out there.
Yeah, listen, my dad has cable, and he uses it to watch the local CBS affiliate most of the time. So, but he likes to have it. If Baylor blows up Auburn, that's going to be ranked. Is going to be huge for the Big 12. Aranda is going to come after Arnold, who is trying to regain his confidence.
Absolutely. Look, if Baylor beats Auburn, if Clemson beats LSU, if Miami beats like Notre Dame to a degree, but Florida a couple weeks later, Florida State plays a good game, even wins against Alabama. I don't, and those are just some of the out of conference games I'm thinking of that could really put a different narrative on the entire season, all in the first couple of weeks. And there's a few more, obviously, if Ohio State beats Texas, right?
Yeah. The beginning of this season is so stacked with great games. It's unbelievable. I can't wait for the parlay on that one. By the way, we're going to go for about another 10, 15 more minutes here. So if you have a comment that you absolutely have to be read, it'll have to be a super chat. We've got a full queue here. Thank you, everybody who has left these great comments. Nitwit says Tennessee-Ohio State playoff game was a pivotal win for the Big Ten. Historical victory for Ohio State. Yeah, big win for Ohio State. Penn State had big wins. Oregon was number 1 overall, and it didn't do too well for him. And I really don't like that Dan Lanning is blaming a break, that they had too long a break, and that caused them to get blown out 31-0 in the first half.
Yeah, I think when he jumped in the pool, he hit his head.
Yeah, I come on. I mean, you just weren't ready for it. I just wonder if All Power 14 had oil money, as they call it, how much more even the playing field would be. I'm going to say a lot more even than it is now. I think he's talking about the Big 12. Or maybe he's saying Power 4. Maybe he's saying Power 4.
Every single conference has gaps between the top and the bottom in terms of money. Even the SEC does. The difference is the SEC bottom team has a premium on their media dollars versus every ACC and Big 12 team, right? So if the teams that have a lot of money have that much less to catch up on, but they still are, baselining higher than others are.
Yeah, he's talking about the Power 4. Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody's got some kind of money. Ohio State has that insurance money from Nationwide. So, and Progressive, it's Mo, and I need to record that Scott Frost comment. I love you for saying that. Yeah, Scott Frost is a dick. I mean, come on. It was the kid's fault. I mean, when Rich Rodriguez went to Michigan and had his terrible time there at Michigan, he never blamed the players. Tempa says, please hit the sub and like button. It's free to do, absolutely. And if you don't like what we had to say, hit us with the thumbs down. It helps us in the algorithm as well. None says, well, if I can pull it up here, why won't it let me? There it goes.
I see it.
Come on, Rock and Rant. ESPN is a complete propaganda machine.
I'm not sure where I said that they weren't. All I was saying was trying to explain what the power rankings were and why I think that despite the fact that they're a propaganda machine, there's a narrative out there pushing back against it now that I don't think was there a year ago because they went full propaganda machine. Eventually, people stop listening to a propaganda machine.
Dabo at Clemson gets quite a number in the NFL. Absolutely. Dabo, Kirby Smart. I'm just saying Ryan Day has put a lot more kids in the NFL than in the first round of the NFL than Deion Sanders has.
Look, Dabo has a very strong chance of having 5 players this upcoming season picked in their NFL in the first round of the NFL draft next year if they play up to expectations.
Moan, if the analysts set a number, then adjust it when they go to another school. Explain that. Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, Fergie. That happens all the time. There was a 3-star receiver that they signed. The next day I saw all of it said Ohio State signs 4-star receiver. It's, he went from 3-star to 4-star just like that because Brian Hartline extended an offer to him. Ryan Day has Ohio State behind him. I love your wide receiver coach. He's actually our offensive coordinator now. and he deserves the benefit of the doubt. But there's other people besides wide receivers that Ohio State puts out there. We've had some cornerbacks come out of Columbus under Ryan Day. We've had some quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud went to the Houston Texans. Has done fantastic for him. Dylan Raiola doesn't handle pressure. Did they fix that? We'll find out. We'll find out. For me, it's hard with Raiola because he bounced around so much. He was such an indecisive kid. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Dylan Raiola? Do you think he makes it this year, Rock? Does he flip that switch?
I think he'll be better, but I don't know if he flips the switch. I think he's more on a dimmer that will go up and get a little bit brighter, but I don't know if it's enough to overcome. I am down on Matt Rule. I don't think he's the guy for Nebraska. I think Nebraska needs to make a change and get somebody that can really deal this program. And I know what it's like to continually swing on and miss on coaches. It's frustrating, and that fan base deserves better.
Right, and I'll say it again. I've said it 100 times on this channel. Nebraska never should have fired Bo Pelini, and I'm 100% with you. I've met Bo Pelini. He is a raging asshole. Not a good person. I wouldn't want to be around him. I wouldn't want to be around any of the Pelinis. They are Cardinal Mooney loonies. But he had that coach. He had that team giving you 9 and 10 win seasons pretty consistently. And you fired him because he was a dick. Well, I mean, and then you brought in Mike Riley. And who was the other one? Bill Callahan. And it didn't work out for you. Look at here. We got Nitwit with the $50, the 50-piece chicken McNugget. Great show, guys. Cannot wait to watch UNC football get destroyed in the SEC in 2029. Will Bill Belichick be the coach in 2029? Or will it be Steve?
I will be stunned if Bill Belichick is there in 2029. I think the new Jordan brand with the Jordon will have its own empire well before that, and they'll be gone.
All right. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated, Nitwit. We love having our PSU fans around here. Give you a little cougar, and then we're going to give you a little we are. Thank you again for that massive super chat, Nitwit. We do appreciate it. It helps us keep the lights on around here, get some new things going on. Got another super chat right after that from Cranky Tiger. Fun to help get Rock a mic, to help Rock get a microphone that works. Like, I can't even hear you at all right now, Rock. Yeah, that super chat was probably well timed because I can't even hear Rock and Rant right now. I don't know if he accidentally muted his mic in the back end. I accidentally
muted my mic.
Okay. Do you want to respond to this?
I was just messing with everybody because I want you all to be drinking Mad Dog 2020 during the show.
Do you have anything is it a microphone issue or?
I have no idea what's going on. I switched on the auto, the new feature here in the background just to make it go like everything's fine. And I use it on Thursday night with no problem and no settings changes. So no idea.
I mean, it sounds a lot better on auto. I will say that you do sound like it's a lot richer sound.
Well, there you go. Maybe StreamYard did something good for a change.
Thank you for the super chat.
Appreciate it, Cranky.
Cranky Tiger. We'll give you a little Clemson Tiger roar for that. That's a pissed off tiger. Let's see. We'll give you something else. You drop a 20-piece like that. Let's go to television. Let's go to Brockmeyer. $20. Speaking of $20.
I was helping those ladies find a new life, $20 at a time.
Thank you for the super chat, Cranky Tiger. It is much appreciated. I think we've got it figured out. Rock is now on the auto feature on StreamYard, at least on the Moan After Dark, and it seems to be working a little better.
Yeah, it's definitely not my own volume level here because it was up and set and fine. So we'll find out, though. I'm sure there's a portion of the chat that was really thrilled that they couldn't hear me.
Jansen Roberts says the only issue with the committee is that they keep all their metrics hidden and not transparent. They can flip flop every week with what they want. Just make a transparent metric system. Yeah, I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday stream that Bomber and I did with my blueprint to fix college football. I think that the committee's ballots should be made public. I think every committee member's ballot should be made public.
The quintessential version of that, which about the transparency that I can remember, and I think it's a pretty good one, is there was a week when Miami had an off week in this last season, I believe, and that was the week that I think Alabama beat Mercer and they jumped Miami.
Yes. Yeah. C. Curtis is in the house. Good to see you, Curtis. Should everyone consider the details? Should everyone considers the details of the AQ? This AQ model actually protects Big 12 and ACC playoff chances, while the 511 screws them royally. But the AQ must be 4-4-3-3-1-3. Hard disagree here. It should be 4-4-3-3-2. I believe you get 4 Big 10, 4 SEC, 3 Big 12, 3 ACC, 2 G6 candidates in there.
Where does Notre Dame fall then within that mix in the 2?
Notre Dame has to take one of the ACC slots. If you're going to have a scheduling agreement with the ACC, that's what I'm putting out there. That's one of the penalties for having a scheduling agreement with Notre Dame. They take one of your spots.
So does that mean if Big 10 and the SEC have a scheduling agreement, they take one of each other's spots?
Nope. Absolutely not, because they're in a conference. Listen, that's just, you're using Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame pushed your conference around to add Stanford, Cal, and SMU.
I mean, honestly, though, I think that doesn't make any sense to me, because if the ACC didn't have a scheduling agreement and the Notre Dame just scheduled 6 games randomly as out-of-conference games with the ACC, which they basically were doing 3 to 4 of those games a year prior to the scheduling agreement, you wouldn't be saying the same conversation.
No, I think if anything, Notre Dame should join the ACC or schedule more games in the ACC.
Yeah, well, that's a different story, which is they're waiting for the ACC to fall apart, so they're not legally liable for the fact that they won't join the ACC in football, but might get forced to do it with the Big Ten.
Clemson is loaded and well coached. It is embarrassing to see UNC Belichick even mentioned in the same tier. I don't disagree with you. I think Dabo is one of the all-time greats in college football. I think Dabo, as much as he resisted the portal, the one thing he did get right is development. I think that man is probably one of the great developers in college football. And he gets kids in that program. They stay in that program. They could go elsewhere and get paid more money, but they like to stay at Clemson. And I really like Dabo Swinney. I think he's one of the all-time great coaches. Belichick, listen, he's going to go down as the greatest coach in NFL history. We'll see how college football treats him.
Yeah, I agree with you partially, and then in another part I don't. First of all, I think Dabo could be going on an epic revenge tour this year if he gets to the playoffs and wins the title for his strategy, for everybody who said he was washed and drunk because of what he was not doing in the portal. I do think he's an excellent coach. I just actually don't like him, but I respect him as a coach.
Yeah, I don't like him either, but I do respect him as a coach. I think he's one of the all-time greats. Moen, I will back off my Ohio State tape, but we've watched the recruiting rankings change for years, and that is frustrating as hell. Should have picked on Texas A&M. Hey, I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you on the recruiting rankings. They do change. Nebraska Steve says Bo Pelini was too ill-tempered and cost Nebraska unsportsmanlike conduct penalties at pivotal moments of crucial games.
Better to lose
but he
2
won you
games
9
a year,
games.
bad to lose 1 or 2 games when you're winning 9 or 10 is one thing. When I'd rather have those. I'd rather have Mario not take a knee at the right game and still go 10-2 than have somebody who knows how to take a knee and go 6-6.
Yeah, it's just for me. Listen, I've met Bo Pelini. Like I said, he's a raging asshole. I would not want to be around him. I completely understand that. I'm not going to argue that he is ill-tempered. but the man won games for you at Nebraska. And the guys that came in after him certainly did not. Shonsky, I don't think they take all those SEC teams. The fans don't want to see matches they have already seen. I think that was in response to the Daniel Gorby or Morris Simmons post. Let's end it on this. We're going to end it on Tempest's comment here. We're going to get out of here till next Sunday. Tempest says, Dabo is a hell of a coach. Love him or hate him. I agree. He's old school. He develops talent. I got tons of respect for him. Yeah. All right, let's do our last call, Rock and Rant. You go ahead.
Hey, just we have actual exhibition games in the NFL kicking off this coming week, so you can see some of your favorite college football players. I'm obviously looking forward to seeing what happens with Cam Ward in his first exhibition game, and everybody's in camp, so the camp reports are out there. It's the last few weeks of telling lies season for everybody. It would be interesting if you're watching on the Rewatch Crowd. Let us know what the early reports are for your team, so we have an idea, because we do read the comments. How are you feeling as you hear the reports coming out of your school's camps? Because I know I'm paying attention to them. And drinking the Kool-Aid for the last 3 weeks before the real results either make you drink more, but alcohol, or celebrate with victory.
And my last call will be Virginia Tech fans. I know you love your team. I know you love your school. You love the fan base. Don't get mad at me, but Virginia is the flagship school in Virginia by definition. I'm sorry. It is. There's no changing that. We won't disagree with you on football viewership, football fandom, football anything. But yes, according to definition, I'm sorry, the Cavaliers are the flagship school in the state of Virginia. For myself, for Rock and Rant, I want to thank everybody who came out tonight. We had over 300 viewers between YouTube and X. I do appreciate that. I want to give special thanks to Ryan Willie, Ricky Tungate, the Big Lubbock, Doc Gibbs, Nitwit with the 50-piece, Cranky Tiger with the 20-piece. We appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We can't wait till next Sunday because it's 1 week closer to college football. For myself, for Rock and Rant, I want to wish everybody a good work week. Peace out. We will see you next Sunday.